Hey everybody, it's Devon, aka Dev the Nail Junkie. Before we get started, let's just take a few moments to let people come in. Thank you so much for those of you who've joined us or who are going to join. Hey everybody, it's Devon, aka Dev the Nail Junkie. Before we get started, let's just take a few moments to let people come in. Thank you so much for those of you who've joined us or who are going to join us. I'm really excited to do this live. It's the first time I'm doing like a impressionist style live, so this should be interesting. So for those of you who don't know what today's live is about, we're going to be doing Claude Monet's water lilies, or I guess a design inspired by Claude Monet's water lilies. A while back, Zillabeau had a Fiote educator competition, and one of the submissions that I created was this water lily inspired design. Originally, when I did it though, I actually mixed all the colors because I don't have that many cream colors. That is Fiote's brand. I do have their waterfall collection, which is amazing. If you don't have it, I highly recommend it. So I had to like mix all the colors that you see in that design, and you know, it took a while. I'm not gonna lie, it definitely took a while. So today we're going to be using some of Leaf Gel's products as well, so that way you all don't have to sit there and mix colors forever, because I'm sure you all have much better things to do. Also, if you do pick up any of the products that I'm using today, please make sure you use code DEV, that's DEV, and that will get you 10% off your entire purchase. So as we all know, buying nail stuff, sometimes things get a little crazy. Sometimes you spend $1,000, sometimes you spend $100. But either way, if you do and you use my code, you get 10% off, which is like, ends up being a good amount of a discount when it comes to nail stuff, because you know, if you buy $1,000 worth of product, that's $100 off. Or even if you buy $100 worth of products, that's obviously $10 off. So yeah, if you end up purchasing, please make sure you use that code. Anyways, you're gonna notice that I might not be using the full waterfall collection when I mentioned it of like products to use. I didn't want you all to have to read like the world's longest list, so I just kind of put in the collection to make it a little easier to explain, you know, some of the colors, but we're not going to be using every single color from the waterfall collection, in case you're wondering. Okay, well, it seems like we have a nice healthy crowd. Thank you everyone for joining me. Man, you guys are making me nervous. Send me good vibes, because, you know, I don't know if any of you have had to do lives, but it's always during lives when things start to get all weird and wonky. Like, for example, right now, I'm so lucky that they are deciding to do lawn mowing during our live. Yeah, things always get a little weird during lives, but it's okay because we'll be together. So, okay everyone, let's get started. Give me 1 second to flip you up. So my nail desk looks crazy right now because I've got like all the nail products on it right now. And again, we're not going to be using like 30 colors but we are using a good amount of product today. So some of the things that we're going to be using, that is, oh, oops, uh-oh. Sorry, I guess there was a glitch with the internet. Hopefully you guys are still with me. Give me some hearts if you're still with me. We still together? Can you guys hear me? Everything good? Okay, good. Thanks. So from Waterful, we're going to be using these 4 colors. This is WF04 green, WF05 blue, WF08 black, and WF07. Ooh, I almost grabbed the wrong pink. I have the neon version and also the regular Waterful version. I love both so much, by the way. The other color we're going to be using is NA04, which is a really pretty purple. I'm actually wearing it now. I put a little glitter on it, but yeah, that's also another thing we're going to be using. We're also going to be using the Extender Builder Gel, OZ Top, Silky Matte Top, 406 or 436 by Leaf Gel, and 407 by Leaf Gel. I'm using a gold powder today, and we're also going to be using texture gel. So you can choose to use black or you can choose to use another color. I'll explain a little bit more about this later. Brushes that you're going to be needing today. Liner S. Oval. Liner L, and of course we can't forget liner XS. Okay, let's get started. So let me move all of this out of the way and let you guys look at the art while we're doing that. So some things that I want to explain about this technique. I'm not going to be doing the full set of 5 because some of the designs are repetitive and I don't think you need to see me do the designs twice. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to be doing this outer design and then this design because I feel like that's the 2 that you're probably most curious to know exactly how I created it. And also, if you are going to recreate this, you can do whatever version you want. You can change the colors. I've seen a lot of people do different versions where they adjust the colors, change the colors. To be honest, I saw this on Wayfair. There was like a imitation version of, you know, Claude Monet's Water Lilies, and I really liked it, and it also worked perfectly with the colors that I had, so I liked this version quite a bit. I added my own little touch by adding like these cute little frame details in gold, but for the most part, that was kind of my inspiration. So again, you don't have to use the exact same color palette or style of water lilies that I'm doing. However, it just worked with my needs, and I really enjoyed doing this impressionist style art, and I hope you do too. So to get started, I already painted my base purple with NA04. This collection, I want the whole collection. When I tried to purchase it, it was out of stock, but I want the entire collection because that set is so cute. Next, we are going to just use your little palette. Oh, another item I forgot to mention is gel starter. So I'm using Fiote's gel starter. I put it in a little dap and dish like this, and I also used a little sponge so that way it makes it easier for me to clean while I do this live. You are going to want to use that because it helps soften out some of the edges when we're painting, because Fiote's waterfall collection, as you can see, is extremely pigmented. This is just one coat of that purple base, and as you can see, it is completely opaque with just one coat. And that's how all of Fiote's colors are. They're very, very pigmented. Like this black as well is supposed to be a sheer black, but as you can see, it's quite pigmented. And for those of you who use leaf gel, Fiote products work beautifully with leaf gel. I haven't had any issues. Yeah, no compatibility issues whatsoever, no lifting or peeling or any weird stuff like that that sometimes happens. Okay, so let's get started. So when we're looking at this design, we need to create the background first. So for the background, I'm using that blue and black from Waterfall. And then I softened the edges using the Fiote gel starter. So you're just gonna take the littlest amount because again, it's very, very pigmented and we don't need to be using a lot. And you're just gonna randomly kind of dot it on. Look at how little bit I'm using, and then you can already see how pigmented it is. So when you're looking at Monet's water lilies, it's actually more, the view, I guess, is from the perspective of someone who's staring at the pond. There is no sky. Sometimes people, or well, I don't know if it's all people, but sometimes there's a confusion that maybe this upper part here, because it's blue, is sky. It's not. It's just more of the pond, but in a further away distance. So you're just going to want to go ahead and tap that out a little bit. And then take your gel starter and just saturate your bristles in that just a little bit. I tapped off the excess. And then you're just going to go back and touch those spots. You see how it kind of softens those edges just a little bit? That's what we want. You don't want to soften all of your edges, but just pick a few areas for you to kind of choose where you want to soften it. When I was looking at the image for the Monet water lilies, I noticed that along the edge on the bottom of the nail, it would be darker, because in the picture, the foreground was a little bit darker in some parts, not everywhere. There were other parts that were a little bit lighter, and then even in this design, you'll see sometimes the background has spots where it's dark as well. So you're just going to tap out that little bit of excess. And then this looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and cure it for 30 seconds. So I'm using my F-Gel lamp for this, in case you are curious. It really doesn't need that long since this is a sheer gel. So I'm just going to skip that and start working on the black parts. So again, these sheer tint polishes are very, very strong. I'm using just the slightest amount. I don't want to overdo it because it's so easy. And then you're just going to tap some spots towards the bottom part of the nail, the bottom base, so that way we can create the illusion of depth. Excuse me, everyone, I might have to sneeze. Oh, maybe not. I've been trying this trick because I'm notorious for sneezing really, really loud. I've tried to sneeze quieter, but it's really difficult for me, apparently. And I just like press my nose when I feel like I'm about to sneeze, and it's been working on stopping me from sneezing, so that's good. So how is everyone's day going? Are you guys having a good day? It's 10 a.m. in Hawaii. I don't know what time it is where everyone else lives. Tell me where you live in the comments below, because I'm curious. So this is our base. So you can see we have some nice blues and black. I'm gonna layer a little bit more blue in some spots. Again, not too much, just a little bit. A little bit goes a very long way with this. So that looks pretty good. I'm gonna just do the same with the black. Lovely. So cure again for another 30 seconds. And while that's curing, let's work on our other nail tip. So you are going to take the purple NA04 and NA06, which is like a teal green almost. It's like a muted teal. And you're gonna just randomly apply spots of it all over the nail. Like this. Of course, you're going to need a base coat, etc., but today we're not using that since it's just on a nail tip. Then you're going to take your purple and fill in those gaps. Like that. Then grab your brush, make sure it's clean for this, and then we're just gonna kind of tap those things together a little bit. So this doesn't have to be perfect. It's just to kind of make sure that the base has some sort of texture and doesn't look flat. So you can kind of see what that looks like. Gonna add a little bit more purple to one of the spots because I just need a little bit more right here. Okay, so I'm gonna let that settle for a bit so that way the gel can nicely blur and also level out. You don't want to have a bumpy nail. That's the most irritating thing in the world. And that looks pretty good. So go ahead and cure for 30 seconds to a minute. I'm probably going to do 30 seconds just to kind of speed it up. So that's what our base looks like now. I'm going to do another 30, just for good measure. And now we are going to go ahead and work on the water lily part. So you're going to take your green or your teal. I'm not exactly sure what color to call this. Yeah, it's kind of like a muted teal, muted green. What do you all think? And then you're going to take your one of your liner brushes. We're going to use our extra small liner. And then you're going to pick up a nice healthy amount like this, and you're just going to start you're going to start applying your water lilies, or I guess the lily pads for your water lilies, like that. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is Impressionist style art. So there is a little bit of fluidity, I guess. And I think exactness would look kind of strange. I'm turning the nail to the side right now just because I have the holder for the phone in the way, so it's a little bit easier for me to do it this way. However, obviously, if you're working with a client, you're not going to do it like that. So you can just go ahead and continue to add your lily pads all over. For this, I'm going to primarily keep them on this corner of the nail. So the bottom left corner is where I'm going to focus majority of the lily pads. Make sure that when you're doing this technique, you create some lily pads that are not fully formed towards the edge of the nail. So that way it really helps with making the look complete. And then also make sure to do some lily pads that are smaller and some lily pads that are bigger, because not all lily pads are the same. And also, the further away they are, the smaller they would be. So you can see up here, I did some smaller ones. And again, Fiote's gels are so pigmented that you barely need much. Voila. And that is our lily pads. So while that cures for 30 seconds, I'm going to work on the base for the other nail with a clean brush. So make sure you use your gel starter. Going to try and incorporate more of the colors that are used in the nail tip, since we aren't doing a base like how we are with the other tip. For this one, we're just going to be using parts of blue from Waterful and then pink as well. So if you have your Waterful pink, just apply a little on your palette. And then grab your brush. Again, just start tapping random areas that you want to kind of focus more of the blue on. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. That's the beauty of this design. Impressionist style is not exact, and we love that. Then you're going to take your pink. As you can see, I'm using the slightest amount because it is very concentrated, just to kind of make some of those purple spots look a little bit more vibrant. And you can already see we kind of created a nice, pretty background. Just gonna touch up some of those blue spots a little bit more. And also, again, if anything looks too dark or you don't really like the way it's going, Fiote's Gel Starter is the perfect thing to kind of soften some of those edges out. Like that. Or you can even add some of the Gel Starter to the mixture that you have here. So, for example, my brush is already saturated in Gel Starter, so I added a little bit to the Waterful Blue, so that way I could intensify it without having to constantly tap, 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 tap. So that's another way that you can use Fiote's Gel Starter. I really like it. It's so useful for so many things. I used it a lot during my Fiote Educator competition. There were so many benefits I found out. Okay, that looks, oops, pretty good. That looks pretty good, taps it more. That's always something I do. I'm like, oh yeah, that looks great. It continues to do more work. It's funny because when I was working on this set, I was trying to do a design right before this that was like a layered design where it's like you draw the leaves on a vine and then you apply a sheer color over and then you draw the other leaves on a vine. That should have been so easy for me, but for some reason it was just like the worst struggle of my life. And I was not having a great time. Then I saw this Wayfair ad with the with the water lilies, and I instantly fell in love. And I was like, hey, I have those colors, I want to try. And that became the submission. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our water lily. So you want to use this color, IF04. So it's a very, very pretty sheer pink, or semi-sheer pink, I want to say. And it works as the perfect base for our water lilies. Then you're going to just grab about this much with your excess liner brush, and you're just going to go ahead and do that. Just dot right in the center of your lily pad. Sorry, when I say center, I mean the top center. You don't want to dot it directly in the center of your lily pad, because your lily is going to be closer to the top. So top center. And not every lily pad needs to have a lily. And also, not every lily needs to be perfectly defined. And I'll show you what I mean. So, for example, lilies that are further away, like this one, we don't really need to define it as much. So you're just gonna kind of fan it out. You see how it went from a circle and now it's more like a V? So you kind of want to create like a little V shape. Just like that. And I think I'm going to choose one water lily to be a little bit bigger than the others. Voila. Go ahead and cure. Now that we have this base on, we are going to use our texture gel. So I'm using black. The reason I decided to use black is because I like the way the gold looked on it. However, if you're doing this for a client, I recommend using the beige texture gel, because if, you know, wear and tear from customers, etc., blah, 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 if they scratch it, seeing the beige underneath won't cause as much of a distraction from the gold, you know, and the fact that it's scratched, versus if it's black base and then you have gold powder on top, and if they scratch it or whatever, scuff it up, then you're going to be able to see the black scratch marks, and that's going to be irritating. So I recommend using a beige base, but the reason I decided to use a black is because this is just for photos, and it popped so much better for the photos primarily. So that is complete. Now we are going to mix this pink from Waterful into this beige color. And also I'm going to be using my XL brush again, or extra small brush. And you're just gonna mix like a pink highlighter color. Kind of want to tone it down a little bit more. And we don't need much of this because this is just supposed to be kind of our highlight to kind of bring out our water lilies just a little bit more. You see how I added that light pink, or sorry, that darker shade of pink over the light pink? It just helps add a little bit more depth to our water lilies. And you don't have to put it all over the lily. Just random spots works. Like that. Cure again. So for the next part, to create the frame, I'm using the oval brush, and I picked up quite a healthy amount of the texture gel, as you can see. And I'm just gonna kind of put it on there. So the thing about this texture gel is it's really thick, almost like a sand gel. And you can create all kinds of beautiful things with it. So I'm gonna situate this so that way it's in the middle of the nail. The reason I like using the oval brush for this is because you can see that the tip of the oval brush makes a perfect oval for me. And that is the shape that we need. So once you kind of have your shape down, you can go ahead and push the product in. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm actually not having to apply that much pressure, and it just evenly smooths itself out. And I'm just using the product and kind of pressing it into the areas that I need it to be in. Also, if you typed any questions or comments and I haven't responded, I will take a look at the comments after. So like this. Then we can kind of clean up the shape a little bit more. If you see that there are spots, like on this side, I can tell that the frame part is a little bit thin. You can just go ahead and use one of your liner brushes to actually add a bit more product. I just cleaned my brush off and I'm going to try and push product there because I don't need product in the center of our frame. So I didn't even use the gel starter to clean this. I'm just using a dry brush. To kind of just push the product into place. Hey everyone, it's Dev, the nail junkie again. Sorry if you guys couldn't hear me. I really hope that wasn't the entire live. Please let me know in the comments. Can you hear me? Hey everybody. Yes, you can hear me. Yay! Okay, so I have a question for those of you, if you were here for the entire live, were you able to hear me earlier and then the sound just cut off? Or was it that you didn't hear me at all from the very beginning? Yes, you guys can hear me. Great. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, well, I'll just have to take a look at the live again and see where the sound cut out, but I'm so sorry about all of that. So while we took a short break, I ended up adding that third little dot up at the top. As you can see, we created a frame now. And you're gonna go ahead and cure this. Cure this for a full minute though, because it's a solid color. It's also a texture gel. So it's better to just cure it and give it a good amount of time. Oh my gosh, of course I drop it. Whoops, you see, this is what happens. It's in a rush, and now I accidentally tipped over the nail tip. So there we go, we just fixed it. Perfect. Okay, so you're gonna cure that for 1 minute. Now that this is completed, we're gonna go ahead and add those details using our liner S, and then we're gonna use color 436 from Leaf Gel. And you just need the tiniest amount because again, Leaf Gel products are also extremely pigmented. So we just need that small amount, that's it. Then you're gonna go ahead and apply it to the bottom of your lily pad. This is just to give your lily pad some definition. Let me also zoom in a little bit more. So if you've noticed, I'm only applying it to the bottom half of the lily pad. You don't want to apply it all the way around the lily pad. It's to give the illusion of depth. So remember earlier when I started the live saying like, you know, things always get a little wild during lives, and some reason there's like connectivity issues. There's always just all these unforeseen things that'll happen during live. I don't know if it's me who jinxed it or I have some kind of weird energy that like messes with technology every single time I hop on a live, but I promise you, almost every single time I hop on a live, there's something that happens. And today was the first time I experienced the sound just completely cutting out like that. That was so weird. So you're gonna go ahead and cure that lines that we created for the water lilies. Now that you have this all done and taken care of, let's go ahead and apply the gold on. So you don't need to do anything to this. You don't need to apply a top coat or anything like that. We're just gonna go ahead and apply it directly on because this black texture gel looks just fine without having to be wiped, etc. I feel like the the tackiness with Fiote is very, very, very minor. The inhibition layer is very, very, very light. It's not extremely sticky and wet. So if you're doing something like this, it's completely fine. And I just applied the smallest amount of gold powder on a little makeup sponge. And then you're just going to go ahead and apply it, to your frame. And it's pretty easy to do so right now because the frame sticks out. So it's not really hard to just get it where you need it and not in the places where you don't, especially if you tap out the excess from your makeup wedge, then it's very, very easy to do this. I think I need a little bit more. And you can just get it all messy on the inside. It's completely fine, because no one is going to see that part anyways. Just be careful when you're doing the outside of the nail. And again, I didn't top coat any of this. If you get a little excess stuck on the outside, it's okay. You can always take a brush and clean it up after. I have a tendency to like to cure after this, just so that the powder really sticks to where I need it to. So I'm going to cure for about 30 seconds. Then we're going to go back to our water lilies and use your liner S brush. Now you're going to be using Waterful Green, which is WF04, and we're going to use that for shading. So you can do this either way. If you want, you don't have to do it after. You could do it to the lily pads before. Sometimes I like to do it after just because it's a little bit easier for me to, I don't know, see. So there I just added a little bit of the Waterful Green, and you can already see on this lily pad it's made a huge difference. So just go ahead and add a little bit. We're adding it closer to our green line that we painted, because again, this is to help give the illusion of depth and to also make our lily pads kind of pop. And you really don't need a lot, as you can see. I've applied like the smallest amount on my brush and it still somehow is giving me more. Actually, I think I applied too much right there. I'm gonna have to take some of that off. For this, you don't want any harsh lines. The goal is to make everything kind of soft, kind of feathered out. There we go, that is complete. Oh, am I the same voice as Maniology? Yes, I am. I am. Lady Keratin is right. I'm sorry, did I get your name right? Lady Keratin. Care a ton and keratin. That's so cute. I am the same voice as Maniology, in case you're wondering. So yeah, I do a lot of different things for multiple nail companies. My day job. Oh, you see how we have this fallout here? I'm just gonna clean it up real quick with the gel starter while we're talking. So my day job is I work for Maniology as their product development person. So I'd say not all the plates, but about a good 80% of the plates are the products that I work on. So I'll work with a team of designers to create our plate designs. And then outside of that, and before I started working at Maniology, I was a nail tech, and I think, what is it, maybe 6 years ago or so, I decided that I wanted to kind of brush up on my nail art skills. So I joined something called Nerumi, and it was teaching me a lot about like, oh, we don't even need to clean this. I don't know why I'm bothering, but we're already here. So about 6 years ago, I joined a nail art group called Nerumi, and it was like a monthly subscription where you would learn different Japanese nail art techniques. They ended up hosting a competition for leaf gel educators in the US because they wanted to expand, and I applied and I won that competition, and that's how I got attached to leaf gel. And then a couple years later, the boss of Leaf Gel USA decided to open up Zillabeau, and Zillabeau was doing really well, so I was helping out on that end. And then I decided to apply for the Fiote educator position, and that went well, and now we're here. So I am an educator for Zillabeau, Maniology, and Leaf Gel. And I don't have any issues with using multiple products because I feel like they all kind of work with each other. I don't look at it as a separate thing. So now we're going to be creating the lines here that we have for our like hanging roots. I'm going to be using the color 407 by Leaf Gel, and also my liner brush. So I'm gonna use my liner L. This is, oh my god, one of my favorite brushes, and every time I try to stock up on it, y'all keep buying it, and I just can never get a hold of it when it's in stock for some reason. Like every single time I need to buy, it's like sold out. Saddest story ever. So we're just gonna go ahead and draw some kind of wavy lines like this. And since we kind of want it to be a frame, the lines that are closer to the right are going to be shorter, and the lines that are closer to the left side are going to be longer. It's so funny that you guys noticed that my voice sounded very familiar. Good eye. Or good ear, I guess. So now you're just going to go ahead and drag out some of those lines so that way we can create our fern like that. Yeah, I always thought that working for all three nail brands actually works out beautifully because each brand offers something special and unique to that brand. And I've noticed now that I've been using Leaf Gel for a long time, I love using Leaf Gel. It is one of my favorite products to use when I freehand. However, I noticed that I needed like a gel polish company, because there are certain designs where I noticed I'd have difficulties doing it with potted gel, and it was a little bit easier to do with like gel polish. So I love the fact that I have both companies to work with because their products, one, are compatible with each other, and that's always the struggle, is finding products that have good compatibility. And also because now I can do any art technique I want. I'm not really limited to things. So that's part of the reason why I enjoy. And then also there are some days where it's like with stamping, for those of you who follow me or know me, I am not the best. I've definitely talked about how I'm not the best at like anime or super detailed freehand. My style again is much more impressionist style, like, and a lot more organic. I think that also kind of speaks about my personality as well. So I just felt like me doing nail stamping helped with the fact that I am not the best at super detailed like designs, because it just gave me exactly what I needed, but in about 2 seconds versus me spending like half an hour. Let me grab a sponge. I thought I had my sponge with me. Okay, no sponge. So we're gonna just do a little bit of Leaf Gel's No Wipe Top. So go ahead and put it on your palette. And I wanna do this before we apply our other stuff, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Use a clean brush. I'm going to be using my oval brush. And I'm gonna get some of that No Wipe Top on, and I'm just gonna kind of dab it. Oh, whoops, here we go. I'm gonna dab it on. Be careful when you're doing this. You don't want to disturb the gold powder that you just applied. And you also don't want to make too many bumps in here. So make sure it's nice and smooth inside there as much as possible. So the other way to do this, and this is a much better way, however, my sponge disappeared, so we're not going to be doing that way, is just to take a top coat and apply it to a sponge and sponge it on, because that way you don't compromise the texture of your texture gel. If you just apply it with a regular brush, you know, from the bottle onto your design, you're gonna actually end up ruining that texture finish because it's just too thick. Now you're gonna go back with your little vines and ferns that we have hanging here. I'm going to be using liner S again, and also my 436 green from Leaf Gel, and I'm just gonna apply it over some parts of our fern. Not exactly sure if this is like a fern or a vine. I keep kind of using them interchangeably. But just a little bit to add a little bit more interest to our design, like that. Just double check. Yep, this is nice and dry. Okay, we can go ahead and apply our purple. So I'm gonna just grab our clean oval brush, and now you're gonna fill the inside with this, with just plain purple. I grabbed a nice healthy amount, and then I'm pushing the product out just by kind of applying pressure. Be careful, you don't want to push it out too much. Like that. And then let that settle for a second. Then you're going to cure this for about 1 minute. I think I need to add a few more vines. Our vines are looking very, very skinny and little, but I think I need some thicker vines. So you can really drag them out longer if you want. Again, that's the great thing about this type of art. You can just kind of do whatever you want. we're really just kind of going for that Bob Ross moment of like happy little clouds. Happy little trees, happy little vines. Just something that makes you feel good. Much better. Okay, now that this is cured, let me just double check. Who else does the finger touch test? Like, I know we're not supposed to, but sometimes I still touch it just to be like, are we certain that this is dry? Oh, someone asked, they're surprised that the nail companies allow me to work for multiple brands. Yes, all the companies that I work with support the fact that I work with multiple brands. And part of the reason for that is because they aren't competitors. They're all different in their own way, and they all target different types of people and different people's needs. So they don't see each other as competitors, because Maniology doesn't sell any gel products, for example. And yeah, so that's part of the reason why. Plus, Leaf Gel is Japanese, Fyote is Korean, and then Maniology is like American. So the other thing that we are going to be doing next is we're just going to recreate the same thing that we did on the nail tip, but on a much smaller scale. So I'm not even going to really talk about it that much. I'm just going to jump right into it, and you guys can watch me go at a normal speed instead of a slowed down speed. Now that you kind of know the gist of what it is that we're doing, is everyone still with me? Okay, so now that this is basically done, we're gonna just add our black texture gel to the edge of the nail, the bottom left corner, so that way it kind of creates our frame effect. And I am using my extra small liner. Oh, no, sorry, my small liner. So here, and it doesn't need to be perfect. It's actually better if it isn't. You can see that I've added a little bit of bumps. I like that look. It kind of matches the frame to have some of it. We don't need to have a lot though. So, like that. I actually want to clean up this right here. And then so this is supposed to kind of be like our frame. And make sure that when you're applying your texture gel, it should be bumpy, but there shouldn't be anything really pointy sticking out. If it's pointy and sticking out, that's going to irritate your customer. It's going to be sharp. So make sure that when you do it, you just turn it to the side, and there shouldn't be any really strong, sharp points sticking out. Just like that. Okay. Cure. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply the black. Okay. I'm just going to cure that for a little bit longer just to make sure, because it's on the edge of the nail. So if you're doing this on the edge of the nail, again, make sure that when you're doing it on your client, you either turn their nail or something to make sure that that cures completely. Because again, you need about 1 minute, I recommend. Since it's a thicker formula and since it is very opaque and also textured. And it's so easy for things to not cure on the side of the nail if you're not careful. Now, excuse me. Now I'm going to go back in with my little gold powder. And I always tap off the excess. And then you're just going to press it in. I'm not even really rubbing. It's more like a pressing motion. A tapping motion almost. So that way I can really work that product in there. Okay, there we go. So that is our frame. Again, cure it for about 30 seconds just to make sure that that powder really sets in there. And now we are going back to our water lilies. So using your clean liner S brush, grab that green color and go ahead and paint your water lilies. So for this one, we are going to be putting the water lilies all over. It's okay if you have bigger lilies as well, since this is going to be like our framed mini version. Sometimes I even like to put the lilies close to each other. Oh, whoops, here we go. It's so funny, like I wish you guys could see what I look like right now with the camera in my way. I'm always getting into the most interesting positions when I'm trying to film or do lives. So you see these lily pads that I'm drawing, they're not even perfect, like, ovals. And it doesn't have to be for this. Because once we add the line in for the definition, that'll help kind of give us more of that water lily look, or lily pad look. Water lily pad look. Okay, now that this is all complete, I am going to go ahead and dab on, whoops, and this is why you always have to make sure your brush is clean, because I just dabbed on a dirty brush into my little top coat area. So I'm using Leaf Gel's non-wipe again, and I'm just taking my oval brush and I'm dabbing some in. So as you can see here, I actually don't have much on. It's just a little bit. And it's so that way I can cover that textured frame without ruining the texture of the gel. Because it's very, very, very easy to ruin the texture of it by applying too much product. So there you go, that should do it. And then just cure for about 30 seconds to a minute. Now that this is dry, I'm gonna go ahead and paint my water lilies with my liner S using that sheer pink mixture. So going to add my lily here, or my water lily. I keep saying lilies, but water lilies and lilies are two different flowers. Just like, yeah. It's been an interesting day. But thank you so much for watching and joining my live. I really appreciate it. I'm happy that there are people who found this interesting enough and wanted to learn. There we go. Now go ahead and cure. For this, we're going to apply our Fiote Silky Top. So just go straight up to the edge of your frame. You don't really want to get your frame mattified. Just be careful. Perfect. Now for this, you're going to cure for about 1 minute. Spanish moss, that sounds beautiful. So now I'm going to add those little details using my liner L brush, or actually no, I'll use my liner S brush. And then we're gonna pick up the 436 green from Leaf Gel. Go ahead and add those details. And as you see, I am not doing it in the same order that we had just talked about, because I think the last time I painted this, I finished painting the water lily flowers first before I did the details on the lily pad. However, now I'm kind of doing it in a different way. And I think either is fine as long as you just make sure that you go back and do those other areas. So if it helps you to be consistent and do it in the same style over and over again, that is completely fine. Sometimes I'll switch up the order of things that I do it based off how I feel or just because. So I'm going to cure this for another 30 seconds, and then after that we can show you what it looks like after it's mattified. Using your green mixture from Waterful, just go ahead and apply that little sheer green on the bottom side of your lily pads. Just like that. Okay, time for the reveal. Voila, our masterpiece. So that is the tip we created. Now, while I finish up this last one, do any of you have questions? Because we're almost done with this. So I think now would be a good time to get in any of those last minute questions that you have. If you had questions in the other live and I wasn't able to answer, sorry about the fact that we got cut off, so I couldn't see what you guys wrote previously. But if you have any questions, type them in the comment section below, and I will do my best to get to them as soon as I'm done painting this. So it could be anything. It could be about this technique. If you're just curious, want to ask me about my day or the weather, that's fine too. We can talk about those things. You guys have all been so patient. And that is it. I just need to top coat this and we're good to go. Thank you, Mochi Nail Artist, for the sweet compliment. Also, Inspo Nails, you are always the kindest person ever. I always get such great comments and feedback from you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. Okay, now that this is done, you're going to take Builder Gel. So I'm using Fiote's Extender Gel. It's basically Builder in a bottle, which that I freaking love. I can't even tell you how much I love their Builder in a bottle. I keep trying to purchase this as well, and it sells out before I can even get to it. So I guess you all know how amazing this product is too. So I kind of just pushed everything to the sides a little bit, so we have a nice smooth surface. Now I'm going to go ahead and cure that for about 1 minute. I always like to over cure during lives because there's been times where I under cured and then that was like the absolute worst during a live. You wipe something away and then you realize you wiped away your design. It's heartbreaking. I'm sure you can all imagine how frustrating that can be. After that, we are going to apply our silky top, which is Fiote's matte top coat. Do you have a painting gel you prefer? I find some gels are too sheer. Yes. Okay, so for painting, Fiote and Leaf Gel are freaking phenomenal. I cannot stress this enough. As you all saw during the live, I had to do 1 coat and it was good to go. So it depends what type of art you're trying to do. If you're trying to do, like, for example, super detailed anime art, I would probably lean more towards Leaf Gel because it doesn't blur, it doesn't run, the viscosity is nice and thick, so it's very easy to draw hair thin lines and then not have to worry about it moving and doing all kinds of weird stuff. Also, their black and white is the most opaque ever. Fiote's gels are all very opaque as well. Now, the only reason why I wouldn't use it for certain types of designs is just because it has a tendency to move more, which again can be great depending what type of art you're doing. But if you're trying to do like anime art or just some kind of character art, sometimes you don't want any of that movement. The good thing about Fiote's gel is, though, that it has a very little inhibition layer. Whoops. So it's easy to work with and you don't really have to worry about the runniness as much, but sometimes you just need to keep things still. And in that case, if you're trying to paint something super detailed, I would try using Leaf Gel. But I think Fiote and Leaf Gel go hand in hand because, again, I've noticed that for certain techniques, you need a gel polish. Some techniques you cannot do with potted gels or like super opaque gels. So then you're gonna go ahead and paint the top of your little frame. Try to make sure that you don't accidentally paint the gold frame. You just want to paint your picture. I think that is good. Are both lives being saved? Yes, I believe the first live, I just posted it and I said part 1, so I'll post this live too. Thanks, Inspo by Nails, for helping Karen out and answering for me. You know, during lives, I always need like an A-team there, just in case. So we're curing this last part of the design, and after that we'll be all done. Thank you so much for being so patient with me. Looks like we haven't had any more questions. So again, for those of you who are planning to purchase product, if you do, I would love it if you could use my code, and that's DEV, Dev, and that gets you 10% off of any product from Zillabeau. As we all know, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you are familiar with Zillabeau's products by now, they are amazing. It's like a candy shop in there, so be careful. It's very easy to go wild. And I've tried all of their products, or like each of their brands, and all of them are amazing. Everything that you get, anything that you get from Zillabeau is going to be great. So you don't have to worry about taking a risk on something and being like, oh man, this isn't exactly what I wanted. I have not had a single regret. Out of all the things that I purchased, which has been many by now, I'm sure, I have not had a single regret on any of my items. So I really try my best to only support brands that I truly believe in. If I don't think that they have like the greatest product, or if I don't think it's a really good company, I won't talk about it. So I do love Zillabeau quite a bit. Also, I love the fact that everything is like vegan friendly and non-toxic, because we're all about that. Like the days of chemical things and things that are toxic are so overplayed. Like we're in 2021, y'all. We need to jump on this clean train. So now that this is dried, I'm gonna go ahead and just wipe off that tacky layer. Also, something that I forgot to mention that I didn't do here because I was using a non-wipe for the frame, use a sponge. If you're applying top coat with to the texture gel, I recommend just taking a sponge and applying some top coat on there and then just blot it on. That will keep it nice and covered, but also still give you that great kind of textured feeling and look. So this is our design. You can see. So this is the one that we just created, and this is the other one. Thank you so much for joining my live, everyone. I really appreciate it. You've been so patient, and you all have been just, working with me despite all of these weird little obstacles that I had, and you are amazing. I hope everyone has a great day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.